There are people working in those schools. Recognize I said, unfortunately, there are people working in those schools. Not children in those schools, but there are people working in those schools who make a very good living off of your failure. They may be nice people, fun to talk to, but some of these folks couldn't teach a dog to bark, or a fish to swim, or a tree to tree. And one of the problems is that the people most hurt by their failures are African American males. It is not by mistake. I'm not a conspiracy theorist, so please, I'm telling you what's real. I travel around the country, I'm in schools, I'm in our school, I'm in school districts, I see, I'm telling you, this is the behind the scenes, this is what's up. The over-feminization of primary education in which boys are told that they're supposed to act a particular way. When they do not, they get in trouble. When they don't sit still, they don't do things a particular way, they get in trouble. More and more and more until they begin to be sent out of the classroom. The more they're sent out of the classroom, the further they are behind. The further they are behind, the harder it is to catch up. The less willing they are to do so. And finally, they give up. They give up. It's no surprise why a certain type of personality of man is often seen negatively within many schools. I'm telling you this because you are going to be the ones who have to take this head on. I talk about teachers unions. Let me tell you why. Because they maintain the status quo, meaning that they keep stuff the way it is. There's absolutely no reason why you should keep a failed school in place. I don't care if your grandmother never went to school. If the school doesn't educate people, it's not a school. Said differently, if 80% of the clients at a hairdresser got their hair messed up, aside from her getting hurt by somebody, she'd go out of business. But in many of our schools, they have 60, 70, 80% dropout rates. And we still call them a school. And these people still call themselves teachers. It is not just wrong, it's illegal. Hear me now. If one of your parents were to leave you out of school for 3 weeks, the Department of Children and Families would find them and arrest them. Called educational neglect. Yet when an entire school does not educate an entire school, it's seen as an achievement gap. And then schools like mine come along, and then they say, wow, that's an anomaly. Ain't no damn anomaly. There are lots of us out there. There are many of us all over the country who have the capacity to change young people's minds. But there's somebody standing in the way. It's those teachers' unions. They're the ones who maintain the status quo. These are $1 billion organizations that set the path that you have traveled. I'm telling you, they are the ones who say this because of race. They're the ones who say because you come from certain environments that you can't learn. And it's not because they're white, because a lot of these black folks, because a lot of y'all went to schools where they sang, lift every voice and sing, and didn't give you any education. And so you came to your first year or so, and you were in developmental class after developmental class, and you thought it was you. I swear to God it's not you. I swear to God it's not you. You've been flayed. And I tell you that because you've overcome. Now, what you going to do with the information? You got to go back like Harriet Tubman and free the rest of those children. You cannot allow another child to be put in a position and predicament that you were in. Y'all gotta fight to get schools closed. When the school district, when the state of Connecticut, or if it's the state of Florida, says that a school is an F school, F, failure, y'all gotta shut it down. Just like y'all would march when I was somebody using the N-word, just like y'all would march when what's his name, John Mayer says something off the whatever. When y'all get mad at those educators who are doing you dirty. Get mad at those people who collected a paycheck and blaming your parents because they didn't know any better. I'm saying you all have a responsibility. The civil rights movement started in the hearts and minds of young people. You are the same age as those people who did it before. Stop letting our children be hurt. They're being hurt by this because when they don't have an education, we know what happens to all those people y'all left behind. Do they have good lives now? It's real bad for them, right? They are dangerous human beings because they don't have access to an education. I'm telling you, you can't let another day go by when these schools are allowed to persist. Y'all got to take action. You got to rise up and you got to do something. Shut these daggone schools down before more people get hurt.
At this time, we will begin taking questions from the audience.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Bernard Jackson. I'm a first-year jazz studies student from Tampa, Florida. My first question is, William Lynch said that he gave the notion that if you keep the body of a slave physically strong, but rip the mind from him and keep it weak, that this motion would keep black people in slavery for 300 years. My question is, we're still within those 300 years in which he said that. Do you feel that black people are still in slavery because we had never recaptured our mind back? My second question is that the world says that racism is no more, but we as African Americans, of course, know otherwise. But do you feel that do you feel that colorism has segregated African Americans among each other more than racism segregated us from white people?
Did y'all hear the questions? Y'all got the questions? Well, the first question was about the miseducation of the Negro. And then the second question was about colorism. Right? Did I paraphrase? We have not, the presumption is, what you often hear when they talk about schools and they talk about underfunding, they say that you don't have enough money in your schools. That's not true. Actually, you're being honest. There is enough money, it's just not being spent right. The teachers and the teachers unions are not fighting for more books, they're fighting for more money. Be clear. It's not a teachers union for students, it's a teachers union for teachers. Be clear. One of the major reasons why our community is in the predicament that it's in is because our schools suck. From front to back. Really. And very bad. In fact, if a pilot, well, he couldn't, but if a pilot missed the landing 80% of the time, he'd be dead on his first time. But somehow we seem to accept it when it's done in a school. The biggest racism, however, that we face, is the internal racism. You call it colorism, I don't call it something else. Racism. The very fact that we say, well, there had to be a black person. The very fact that that thought forms in our mind is the deepest, most hurtful, most dangerous of all racism. When we hate ourselves enough to feel comfortable enough to hurt each other, killing each other, that young brother Darian Albert out in Chicago was stomped to death. Stomped to death. There was not a white person to be found, folks. It was because the people there not only didn't value his life, but they did not value their own. The deepest, most insidious form of racism that we face is our own. And I conclude with this point. Y'all are what is known as the talented 10. If you perpetuate ignorance, it is more hurtful. The worst place to see ignorance is in the hearts, minds, and actions of those beautiful, educated young brothers and sisters. When y'all do it, it looks real bad. When somebody who's ignorant does it, we can accept it a little bit. But when you do it, it's completely and profoundly unacceptable.
Let me say something about that colorism thing. I'm gonna ruffle a couple feathers with this one. The colorism thing, my sisters, we give out a lot of light skin points.
Hey.
And I'm light skinned too, bro, but I'm talking about in our community for some reason. I wrote something about this at one point and it kind of pissed off a lot of people, but I never just see a really unattractive light skinned woman, but all the brothers want her.